but it's really beautiful up there from what I remember.
Yeah, it looks really cool. I just like to look at pictures sometimes.
Yeah, it's like a Instagram poster's dream.
Yeah.
But it's really beautiful up there.
Have we got anyone from like a super exotic location tuning in, or I don't
Like
know?
New Jersey.
I mean, like London too is not
Nice.
too exotic.
Close, Brooklyn.
Nice.
Yeah,
That's
nice.
more exotic than Jersey.
It sure is.
That was a very when you said "sure is," that was sounded to me like a very Brooklyn accent, John.
Yeah, that's the home of my birth.
Hmm.
I'm in the mountains
Must have
of
changed a
southern
lot.
Mexico. I think that's the most
Ooh,
exotic I've heard so far.
that's exotic. Where in Mexico?
San Miguel de Allende is central, a few hours north of Mexico City.
Cool. How long have you been in Mexico?
Uh, Almost 6 years now.
Oh, dang.
Yeah.
How's your Spanish?
I would say it's almost sufficient.
Okay. It's not muy bien.
No, not yet. I talk to people in English most of the day because I'm, working remote, so I don't get to
That's
practice
fair.
as much as, my wife that's, talking to people in Spanish all day.
Hmm.
I've had a French partner for coming up on 7 years, and I still can't speak French. So she, her parents don't think it's very funny. I really do.
Yeah, it's gotta be hard to gotta be hard with their family.
I mean, like most of them can
Or
speak
their
English.
family.
Yeah, most of them can speak English, but I don't know. Like, be careful what I say. But French people aren't generally massive fans of folks that can't speak French. Yeah, I'll leave it at that.
Do you have kids?
We don't know.
Yeah, my daughter was born here, and she's pretty much fluent in both Spanish and English, which is really, really fun to watch.
That's cool. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm hoping the same for ours, no doubt.
Yeah.
Cool, Lena.
Is this going to be recorded?
Say again?
Do you know if this will be recorded?
Mm-hmm.
It will? Okay, cool.
Yeah, I think it's being streamed to YouTube.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
All right, I have to step away for lunch in just a minute.
Yeah, it'll be it's being streamed to YouTube, and then we'll share it out afterwards. But it should just be straight on there when you go have a look later. Cool. Lena, are you ready to go?
Yeah. Ready.
Love it. So welcome everyone. We're on our I think 7th workshop now, Lena, right?
I think so.
Yeah, doing good. For anyone who doesn't know, Lena is one of the people that made these workshops possible. So big shout out to Lena. We have so far had a load of different topics, personal security, Ethereum data structures, permanently deploying React Webs to Arweave, and we've got all sorts of stuff in the pipeline as well. So for anyone that's looking to learn, kind of across the broad spectrum of Web3 with probably a pretty consistent skew on development, super good place to come join us. Right now they're every week at this time. That may change over the coming weeks, but we will make sure to let everyone know when that happens. But yeah, welcome, Lena.
Thank you.
How you doing?
I'm good. I'm excited for this talk.
Yeah, me too, mate. I've not looked at Snaps at all, but I've seen it kind of floating about, so excited for the knowledge bomb. Do you want to kind of kick off and give folks like a kind of a background of yourself, maybe kind of who you are, what you do, why you joined the DAO, and maybe how you got into Snaps?
Yeah, so in terms of who I am, I'm based close to New York City. I guess in my previous life, I was a software engineer. So I worked at a startup for 2 years just in like Web2. Um, and just got like super into the space. Like I guess this year I just started publishing stuff online and kind of went to a couple of conferences and just like got excited about all the innovation in this space. So now I'm kind of just doing some independent DevRel stuff. So building with various projects, learning technologies, kind of sharing my knowledge online. And yeah, just excited to like see all the cool stuff that happens in this space. In terms of how I got into Snaps, I kind of just wanted to, yeah, I just had the opportunity to like read through the docs and sort of try to build a snap. So I kind of just went through the whole learning process of how to actually build with it. And honestly, I just thought it was like really cool. I think it's an impressive little bit of engineering they have, and it's interesting to work with. So, and I'm excited to see what people might do with it. So I kind of just wanted to share it with the larger group and spread the word.
Love it, mate. Thank you very, very much. What other kind of stuff have you been looking into recently in the kind of like freelance DevRel stuff you've been doing? I know we had that excellent article that you released on the blog, and maybe I'll post that in the chat for folks now who haven't seen it.
Oh, sure. Yeah. I mean, I think like Third Web is very cool. Other than that, I've just been taking I've explored a little bit of ceramic. I've done like a little bit of contributing to a DAO, just like whatever sparks my interest. But Third Web, I think, is really cool. Ceramic, I think, is interesting. Yeah.
Awesome, mate. Well, really, really looking forward to learning more about Snaps today. Is there any kind of like housekeeping for folks that are watching? Is there anything they need to do to follow along, or need to have open, or you want to share, or?
Sure. Yeah, I guess I was gonna kind of share it in the middle, but I'll share it now just so people maybe have some time to get ahead of it. I'll just copy what I messaged you a little while ago.
Oh, sorry, mate. I missed that.
Oh, no worries. I'll paste it. Yeah, so if anybody wants to like follow along, you can clone, feel free to clone basically this repo that I created. You also are going to want to install MetaMask Flask. You want to install it in a different Chrome profile because you don't want both MetaMasks installed in a profile, so just create a new one. And because it's like a development MetaMask, I created a new wallet for it just with a new passphrase, just to be safe, but it's probably not necessary, but just in case. And there's just a disclaimer on the bottom. I was having some CORS error, so in case anybody's trying to do the same thing and runs into it, just feel free to download that plugin as well into your like new profile with MetaMask Flask. I'd be curious to see if anyone runs into it. Yeah, otherwise, I'll cover all this stuff more in detail as we go. And yeah, I guess I can just like share my screen and get started.
Yeah, go for it, mate.
All right, let's see. I don't think I've ever done, let me see how this goes. Okay, can everybody see my slides?
Yep. Yeah, I got.
Cool.
Yeah, we got it.
All right, let's get started. Yeah, so this workshop is basically just about just about MetaMask Snaps. I don't have any affiliation with them. I just thought the technology was cool and I wanted to share it. So I'm just going to go into a little bit about how it works. First, before we get started, I want to just do a poll to kind of gauge people's, I guess, like experience with Snaps and some of the related concepts. So I'm just going to paste it in the Discord chat, and I have like 3 questions that I'm curious about. And if anybody can share it in the YouTube comments, that would also be really helpful. But yeah, so the first question, if whoever has it open, is just, have you heard of MetaMask Snaps? So I'm just curious to see like how many people it's like been a concept that they've at least come across. And I guess I'll answer it as well. Yeah, I'll give like a minute or maybe for this. Cool, got some no's. And out of curiosity, for the people who have heard about Snaps, where have you come across it?
Twitter.
Okay.
Yeah, I think
Personally, I think Oh, go for it.
I was just gonna say, I think it's the same for me. I think I saw the announcement post from the DevRel team or the like the MetaMask account, but I don't think I've looked into it. And John says Consensus Academy in the chat.
Oh, cool. Okay. So I guess they covered it a little bit there as well. All right. Well, yeah, thank you for your answers. So it looks like we've got it's almost half, but a decent amount of people have heard of Snaps. Second question I have for you guys is, have you ever worked with MetaMask's API in the browser? And it's okay if you don't know what that means. I had never worked with it until I tried to build a Snap, so I'm just curious if anyone's ever used this.
The YouTubes are like 30 seconds behind, so you might get some questions and comments that come in delayed, but
okay.
I think it's Tomb says he was at the permissionless event and did a demonstration or a workshop on it.
Oh, cool. Yeah, that's actually where I heard it first too, was at permissionless. Okay, so it looks like we've got some people. Okay, so most people have not, but we do have some yeses. Yeah, and I like also had no experience with MetaMask, but I mean, sorry, not with MetaMask, but with using their API, but it's pretty straightforward, so we'll get into that as well. And then the last question is, have you guys ever written a JSON RPC API? And I also, but when we the Snap, so cool. So we have some yeses. I'm interested to hear, like, for the people who have built an RPC API, like, what did you build with it? If anyone is comfortable answering. Okay, well, either way, that's cool. So it looks like a lot of people haven't. I hadn't either, but it's actually pretty cool. So I guess we can go a little bit into that. Yeah, so thank you for answering those questions. Just cool. I guess it's good to know, like, good to gauge what people are kind of comfortable with and what they've seen. So it looks like overall people have heard of Snaps somewhat. Not much, like not a lot of people have used the API or anything like that, or built an RPC API. So we can cover all of that. Cool. So for the rest of this workshop, I just want to like introduce what Snaps is. There's some like tooling that you kind of need to use around it. So I just want to show how that whole process works to like actually develop a Snap. And yeah, so we're going to build a simple Snap, which entails writing a JSON RPC API, and we're going to incorporate it into the front end with the MetaMask API in the browser. Cool. And if you want to follow along, I pasted this a little bit earlier, but that's the repo where you can start. And if you want to look at the answer, it's in the solutions branch, but I can get more into it. Okay, so yeah, in terms, does anyone have questions yet? Or I guess if you do, just throw something in the chat and I'm like happy to answer whatever. But yeah, so what is MetaMask Snaps? My understanding of it is it's basically like MetaMask plugin. So it's the same way where you think about WordPress, where if somebody wants to add additional functionality into their website, they can download a plugin from a third party that lets you do basically like anything you want. So it's kind of similar with MetaMask. It's additional functionality you can add. You can opt to add to your MetaMask that can do basically anything you want. And the way it works is basically if you have to be prompted to install it. So the process right now, it looks like, is the application or some front end code will prompt you to install it. And if you agree, then you'll have the Snap running in your browser extension. Snaps are super isolated, so they have no access to your keys in your wallet. They're very like low permissioned environments that basically execute some sort of code. They can do a couple of things, but right now they're pretty underprivileged. And yeah, and they don't interfere with each other. So like it's in a very containerized environment, which is pretty cool. And they're distributed through NPM. So if you were to create a Snap and publish it to NPM, somebody else could install it. And in terms of why Snaps, why does this exist and why you might want to build something with it? I guess from my perspective, MetaMask has like tens of millions of users at this point, and they support anyone from people who are very new to the space who have never like purchased any sort of crypto, to developers who are trying to build a complex feature. And this is across multiple chains, multiple different applications. So it's kind of hard to have functionality that suits everybody, that kind of fits everybody's needs. So this plugin system is a really cool solution to like democratize the process of like creating features for MetaMask. Like it basically opens up to the community to extend features for MetaMask. So overall, I think it's really cool. And my understanding is like plugins that become very popular, MetaMask might actually integrate into their overall API, so they'll kind of graduate from being a snap. But yeah, something that maybe might happen in the future. I'm not sure. So I'll stop there in case anyone has comments or questions, but otherwise I'll keep going.
I've got one.
Yeah.
As soon as I thought about plugins, I thought about security, right? And like the and you mentioned about like isolated containers and low permissions. Is it possible, as far as you know, for like a snap to like request you to sign something, or does it not go that far?
Good question. Yeah, so right now it looks like no, their API is pretty limited, so you will not be signing anything.
Cool. So
because so I can actually get a little bit more into that here, but like so I can explain this and then maybe answer your question a little bit better. But the way that MetaMask sort of works and the way Snaps works is when you download the MetaMask extension into your browser, MetaMask basically injects this Ethereum object into into the browser window, and then this is basically what exposes all these different APIs that you can then use to interact with MetaMask. So if you wanted to sign into an account, get a balance, or like Kemp mentioned, send a transaction, you kind of use like the MetaMask RPC API to do that. So when you add a snap to your extension, you're basically then extending some of the available API calls that you can make. So you can then invoke a snap, give it an ID, and then kind of invoke whatever method exists on the snap in the RPC API. So yeah, to answer Kemp's question, like MetaMask RPC API actually has access to your keys, but the snap can't really sign a transaction and has no access to your keys. And there's one exception to this, and I'll go more into it in a little bit, but yeah, like you won't be able to like do anything related to the user's assets like in MetaMask. Cool. And last thing, or one of the last things I want to mention, MetaMask right now is like a pre-release, sorry, not MetaMask. Snaps is like a pre-release feature right now. So if you were to go into your MetaMask extension that you use on a daily basis, you're not going to see snaps. What you have to do is download the developer like Canary version of MetaMask, which is MetaMask Flask, and that's the link I shared with you guys, but I'll show it to you in a second. And it's basically the same exact thing as MetaMask. The only difference is the icon's a little different. I guess to show you I guess to give you a distinction, and you're able to see this snaps piece, so you can actually work with snaps in this. And yeah, and whatever other features they include in will, I guess, be distributed to Flask first. And yeah, like shared with everybody. And the last bit is also developing more pieces for snaps or capabilities. Right now, they can do a pretty limited set of things. So the team looks like building out more functionality.
Lena?
Okay. Yep.
Are you using a plugged-in mic? Your audio is chopping a little bit.
Try to just use my computer. Yeah. Let me see.
Could be me. Is anyone on the call? Are you getting the same cut in the audio, or?
Yeah, it's chopping. It's chopping.
Sorry, guys. Okay. How about now?
Yeah, it sounds okay to me, mate.
Okay. Yeah, just let me know if you guys still can't hear. Okay, does anybody need me to repeat anything if I cut out something important?
I think I personally got the gist of it, mate. No one else has said anything, so I think you're good.
Okay, cool.
Okay, so I kind of had talked about like how snaps have sort of a limited abilities because they are like super containerized. So this I just got straight from the doc, so they have pretty good documentation. So I pretty much just wanted to include this information. But there's basically some features, some RPC methods you can call without the user kind of having to approve anything. So you can just, some of these unrestricted ones are basically just a prompt like installation and see what snaps are installed. And then these ones down here, these restricted methods are what snaps are actually able to do. Outside of just like code you write, you have a couple of APIs available to you. So you can send a confirmation message, you can hold state in the snap, you can send notifications. Wallet_snap is like custom methods. And this BIP44 entropy one is super interesting, and I can talk about it a little bit more later. But this one lets you basically derive keys for another chain. So like you can use your private keys in MetaMask to generate keys on like any other network with this basically, and you can like have a snap that lets you integrate your MetaMask with like a different network, but your like private keys are still protected. So that one is very cool. I can share a little bit more about that later, but I won't be covering that in the scope of this. And then finally, there's like some other globals they want you to know that are accessible. So the only one I'm going to be using is fetch. So you can basically make internet calls over, or you can make like calls to use the internet basically and make API calls if you give it permission. So the user has to approve that. Okay, so, and this will make a little bit more sense as we get into it. And finally, yeah, so we just need to use a couple of dev tools. We need to use a Snap CLI, which you guys, it'll be installed once you clone the repo. And it basically lets you compile your Snap into a bundle, and then it also lets you serve it out to your like local server. MetaMask Flask, which is the browser extension I mentioned, and also the starter repo. Let me see if I have anything else. Okay, yeah, so that all is right here. MetaMask Flask is just an extension. If you're going to use it, attach it to a different Chrome profile. And then this was actually shared with me yesterday, and it's been super helpful. MetaMask has a good monorepo template, so I basically just clone this. So you guys can either start with, or I recommend starting with mine because I made a couple of tweaks to it. But if you ever want to explore in the future, you can use their template. What else? Yeah, that's about it. So what I want to do, if nobody has any questions, what I want to do for the rest of this workshop is basically build a snap. I wanted to just build like a little high-low game. So like you guess if the next number is going to be higher or lower and you keep score. So we're basically going to do three things. We're going to use a random number generator to call an API to get some random values. We're going to let the user guess if the value is going to be higher or lower, and we're going to keep score. And I mean, it's not like a very exciting, or it's not a very, like, there's no utility in this use case, but it kind of just reminds me of like the Chrome jumping dinosaur when like you have no internet. It's just like a fun little widget. Like it's just something interesting or fun to build as well, I guess. Yeah. Okay, so, and I'll cover this in the end, but I think I can get started with the actual development environment. Yeah, so I guess we'll just start building the snap now. First off, I guess I'll just...
Lena?
Yeah?
We've still got Google Slides on the screen, mate.
Oh, you cut out there.
We've got Google Slides on your screen.
Oh, seriously? Okay. Thank you. Let me...
No worries.
Yeah, let me stop streaming and then...
Boom.
Oh,
Perfect.
okay. Okay, I was like switching back and forth to the screen, so there might have been some confusion earlier. But thank you for letting me know. Okay, oh yeah, so I was kind of trying to show you guys some of these things, but I guess no one ever saw them. Yeah, I guess I wanted to show you like MetaMask Flask. It's basically the same exact extension, except you have access to snaps in here. This is the repo I was talking about where I cloned it, provided by MetaMask. Here's where you can download Flask, and here's where like the JSON RPC API is in their Okay. Yeah, so I guess I'll just get started with like giving you guys an idea of like how everything works together and what is kind of given to us by the template repo. So when we download,
Just before you go, one question: what editor are you using? And then second, are you all right zooming in a bit for folks?
yeah, sure. I'm using WebStorm. It's like kind of like PyCharm, but for JavaScript development, I'm like WebStorm Maxi. I guess I can definitely try to make it bigger. Oh, excuse me, bigger.
Maybe a little bit more.
Okay. I can also maybe color scheme, but let me try this first. Better?
I'd say go for 20, and then you're probably good.
Okay. Oops, 200. Okay, how's this?
Can folks see that okay?
I can read it. Yep.
Cool. And let me know if you guys can't see the folder structure. Okay, so I guess in terms of the repository, what we're given is a mono repo, and there's two packages in it. One is the Snap code, and one is just like a standard React app. So the Snap itself is pretty much just like a regular JavaScript project with a couple of additions. So there's a package.json, and what you're really running here is just a JS file. And from the JS file on the, I guess at the root, we just export this on RPC request handler. And this is basically a JSON RPC API. You just handle various different JSON objects that come in, and based on the method, you execute certain logic. So this is kind of like the structure of the RPC API. And then this is basically our snap. So this is the JS code that gets bundled and then served out as a snap that you can install into your browser. And I'm using MetaMask Snap or Snap, so their CLI, to essentially bundle it anytime it changes and then have it served out from a local port. And the other important thing to look at is the Snap manifest JSON. This is kind of what tells snaps, or I guess like if you put this on NPM, it kind of, you can give it a name and a version. So it just manages like the Snap registry and stuff. And you can also, this is where you would sort of add permissions. So we'll look into that in a little bit. So yeah, what the Snap basically does right now is just, if you pass it a method that says hello, it will use this global wallet.request object. And if we go back to here, what we're basically doing is using the Snap confirm method. So if we look at here, sorry, Snap confirm, this is like one of the things that snaps are able to call on this, like, I guess one of the access points they have. And all we're gonna do is like send a message to the user, and that's kind of all it does. So this is the front end that points to it. The template is nice because it gives you a lot of like installation logic out of the box. So I won't cover too much of that, but the first thing we're gonna do is install a snap. So whenever, and I guess I can show you guys the installation logic. Let me see. For some reason, I can't find the installation, but it's got to be here. Oh, handle connect click, yes. Guess I'll expand everything. All we are doing is calling this wallet enable with the snap ID. And we're kind of using this window.ethereum object that gets like embedded into the browser. So this is essentially the installation or connection logic. So yeah, we're gonna click connect. Oh, okay, because we have a pending request already. So yeah, I'm basically telling it that I'm okay with it displaying confirmations to me, and I'm installing it. So the bundle gets kind of installed into my browser. And now when I click send hello, what's basically happening is we're invoking this snap using the same Ethereum object. We give it the ID, which is just because we're doing it like using local development, we're just it's just the port that it's being served out of. If we were developing against a snap that's live from NPM, this would just be an NPM ID. And the method we're calling is hello. So this will translate directly into this. So it kind of gets passed in. And all that happens when you click send hello is you are sent this confirmation method. So exactly what this code says, and can hit approve. Nothing else happens because that's kind of all there is here. But yeah, that's kind of like the general layout. So we'll basically just use this to build this game that I had mentioned earlier. But I will stop here for any questions or comments.
You mentioned about a bundle. When you install a plugin, does it actually install it in your browser, or does it live somewhere else in like MetaMask's infrastructure?
Good question. So my understanding is that like the bundle is served out from NPM or a local server, but when you click install, what you're really doing is installing that bundle into like this containerized environment inside of MetaMask.
So like within like the like Chrome's extension file structure type.
Yeah, I guess so. Since it is basically extending a Chrome extension, so yeah, exactly.
It's like Inception. And can you like can you pass other values through? So like you have text area content that came up in that message. Like, can you pass other stuff into that, or is it all predefined at build?
Sorry, I think you're also a little fuzzy.
Oh, my bad. Can you pass like text into text area content?
For the confirmation message, no. They had kind of mentioned that right now there's kind of like limited MetaMask UI interactions, so you kind of have to like facilitate them yourself in the UI. So like you can't really, the way you can pass something in is with like a JSON RPC method, but they don't have any like UI interactions yet. But I assume it's something they might want to build out later.
Yeah, dope. I was imagining like a MetaMask chat app.
Yeah, that'd be super cool. I think they have a wish list of like things they want, like I guess to use snaps for. So I think that was actually on their list.
Nice.
Like decentralized messaging. Yeah, it'd be super cool.
You're welcome.
They do have notifications, but that's about it right now. Cool. Yeah, those were good questions. Yeah.
Selena, could I just ask one quick one?
Yeah, of course.
Are all of these transactions gasless, or do you need testnet ETH for the gas?
Oh, that's a great question. Yeah, they're gasless because you're not signing anything, and you're not really doing any like. So it depends what you build with it. Like if you want to build an integration with like the Bitcoin network, then it becomes different because you'll be actually sending transactions and stuff like that. But because we're kind of just building an API that gets added into the browser extension that handles custom logic. There's no like, I guess, like smart contract or like Ethereum involvement in this.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, so I guess we can just get started with building the snap. If you guys remember, I kind of just want to do three things. First one is just use a random number generator to get some random numbers so we can guess against them. And I'm just using this API, csrng.net. So every time we call it, we get a random number. And if anyone's like really hot for randomness, csrng is like a cryptographically secure random number generator. So it has like very reliable and true randomness, apparently. So if anyone's interested in that, check it out. But I'm basically just going to use this API. So what we're going to do is, first thing we want to do is just get a random number. So I'm basically just going to start writing another method. So we can call it get number. And in this case, we want to make an external fetch to this API. So let me just grab the URL. I have some of this code pre-written just so it goes a little quicker. So we have our random generator URL. And what I want to do is just write a quick function. And this is kind of where that global fetch comes in. So it's one of the things that are kind of injected into the Snaps environment. So we can basically just use the fetch. And I'm going to just going to copy and paste some headers. So we don't get any like CORS issues. And then I'm just going to, it's just going to give us this response. So I'm going to extract it out. So we've just got a function that basically calls an API and returns a value. And now we can use this inside of our Snap. So whenever we call this JSON RPC method, we will call this getRandomNumber function, and then we'll return the random value. Okay, so we've kind of got this RPC, I guess, method built out. So now we want to be able to call it from the front end somehow. So we'll kind of build out that functionality. But first, they mentioned in the docs that you can't just use fetch. The user has to sign off on being okay with the Snap accessing the internet. So we just want to give it a permission to access the internet. And I believe, let me just make sure I get the syntax right. It's this endowment network access. So now when the user is prompted to install it, they'll be signing off on also using basically the internet. Okay, so now what we want to do is basically call it somehow. We were calling this setHello method before, so I'm just going to repurpose it. So instead of calling hello, we now want to call getNumber. And sorry, I'm just scrolling through what's already built out, so there's like a little bit less time lost typing. So we're basically just going to call this sendHello method, and yeah, like I kind of mentioned before, we are just using this Ethereum object to invoke the Snap, giving it the ID, which is being served out from localhost, and instead of calling hello, we now want to call getNumber. And I'm not going to rename this method just in the interest of not having to change it in a bunch of places. And then I'll comment this out for now. Okay, so now when we call sendHello, we should be able to see this random number getting logged. So the caveat with developing snaps, I think they're looking to change this development experience, but because you're downloading the bundle when you install, anytime you change it, you have to like reinstall it. So I think they're working on fixing that or like making it a little bit easier, but that's just something we have to be cognizant of. So like that bit me a lot when I was changing it and didn't understand why the changes weren't registering. And now if you guys notice, there's also this additional permission of accessing the internet. So we'll approve and install. So now when we hit this button, we are getting our random values. So that is kind of like us making some calls over the wire. So I'll stop there if anyone has questions or comments.
It's a you mentioned about it being like a an RPC that you're hitting. There's an API somewhere where you're sending the methods, like when it says window.ethereum.request and you're sending get_number. It's that's sending a request to that API or to like a separate Snap service that then forwards it onto the API.
So my understanding is MetaMask is exposing, because you installed this bundle into your extension, MetaMask is then exposing that method of get number inside of their extension that you can then call to like interact with the snap.
Yeah, nice. Thanks. That makes total sense.
Cool. Yeah, it's a good question. Yeah, so it's not like a server. It's like additional code inside of your extension. And I'm just going to, just for some user friendliness, I'm going to just display this number so it's a little easier to see what's going on. And we can also just rename these or change the text here. Oh, yeah. So this is just like some standard React, but when we get a number back, I just want to create a state that tracks it so we can display it. And I'm just going to set it when we get a response. So just for a little bit of like user friendliness. So now when we send hello, we see the random number that is being fetched by our Snap using an external API. Okay, so the next thing I want to do is basically just enable the user to guess. So I guess I want to write a second RPC method that lets us guess. So we basically just want to handle an additional method. So case guess. And for now, I'll return nothing. And I want the user to be able to guess if their method was higher or lower. So we're basically going to parse out some parameters, and you guys will see how we feed those in. So input number and guess. And we're going to parse that out of the RPC request. So basically, because we're passing these params in, and you guys will see how that works, we can just access them out. And then I just want to add some quick logic to handle if the user is correct. So this is kind of like the number they're starting with, and they want to guess if the next number is higher. So I'm going to grab another random number from our API. And just add some logic to see, or I guess to decide if they won or lost. So if they guess high and the number is indeed higher, they win. Or if they guess low and the number is lower, they win. Let success. Always. And I'm just going to return this so we can kind of see what's going on. Okay, so we have a second method, and we didn't change any permissions. We didn't elevate anything because we're still just using fetch, so we don't have to worry about anything there. So I guess now I will open it up to you guys. So we have to build a method that will access this new, I guess we need an additional piece of logic that will access our new method. So can get started writing it, but if anybody wants to like post in the chat or guess what it might look like, feel free to like shout it out.
On the like having to reinstall in Snap Sooner, is it only when you change the permissions where that kind of got you, is where you have to like kind of delete and reinstall it?
No, so it's literally every time you change the Snap. So we're gonna have to reinstall it again. Yeah, I know they're like trying to work on that experience. It's definitely gets to be a little difficult for sure. But it's a good question. Okay, so we want to basically call this guess method with our, basically access the same JSON RPC API, but call a new method. So does anybody remember how we would do that? Okay, I guess I could just keep going if nobody has a guess, but we're basically going to use the same window.ethereum. So we're using the same object that's injected into the window.request. So using MetaMask's API. And then we want to use the method, their API method, which invokes the snap. So method wallet invoke snap. And the params we're passing it what we want to, what like what we want to do with the snap itself, or what interaction we want to do with snaps. Oh, something is not right here. Okay, yeah, so this is kind of the same way. It pretty much mirrors the hello method, where we're using the MetaMask API, we're using their invoke snap method, and then in the parameters, we then kind of give the snap interaction. So in this case, we're doing the same exact thing where we're invoking the snap. We tell it what we want to access and the method we want to call, and this time we're also giving it parameters. So we're giving it a guess and the input number, and will translate directly into these guys. And then all we want to do, I just want to console log the response. And once the guess is complete, I want to set the number to the next one, just so then we can make a guess on the next one. And I'm just going to add some buttons so we can interact with this function.
Can you use like, it looks like, are you using React inside the Snap, Lena?
Oh, okay, interesting question. So this is like the front end that's calling the snap. So the snap is, yeah, that's a good question. The snap is just this like TS file, and I'm using React to basically call the API that's exposed through our extension. So this is just a standard website, yeah.
Yeah, no, I wasn't sure if you were building the UI in the Snap as well, or if the Snap's like mainly just the script.
Okay, yeah. So the Snap is pretty much just a script. It's all like RPC, like API code, and then I'm kind of building out a front end to like interact with the Snap.
Nice, got it, cool.
Yeah, excellent question. Yeah, so there's no really like UI components. You kind of like build them out yourself. The way I kind of see it developing, it's literally just like a thought. You might want to like, if you publish a snap, you might want to also publish like an interface for it or something like that. Or, I mean, who knows what people decide to do with it. Okay, so still getting yelled at by something. Oh, just some typing. Or does that's a really good question about like the React part. If anyone else, if it's still unclear for anybody, definitely let me know.
Like, could you, in theory, like any website could call your snap, or is it only the like, would you have to build a front end to interact with the snap?
What was your question? Can any website access the snap?
Yeah. So like, if could you give would another website that you haven't built be able to send these methods to the snap?
Yep, exactly. So because it's just like a browser extension, it's like the same way that any dApp can like interact with your MetaMask and connect to your MetaMask. It's like any application can see that you have that snap installed and like interact with it. Or you can choose to interact with, like, use your snap with that website as long as it's connected.
That could open up some super interesting patterns.
Say again?
That could open up some like super interesting like patterns and opportunities for how it can be used in the space.
Yeah, it's a good point. Okay, I'm getting a compilation error. I'll just copy and paste this again. Yeah, that is something to think about. I guess the benefit is that because your keys are not exposed to the snap, like the only thing, like you do still have to connect it, I guess, and the only thing that would be able to access is like methods that you call yourself. Well, I don't know, it's something to think about. But yeah, definitely, it's just definitely a little bit more surface area for like people to take advantage of it as well. So we'll have to be thought through. Okay, so we built out a little like guess high-low, I guess, interface that we can then use to call this snap. So I'm just going to reinstall it again.
We should have lined up a prize, Lena. Get people guessing.
Oh, yeah. Maybe we can give out some code tokens. Okay, so the snap is installed. Now we can get a random number. So, okay, yeah, this is a good one. Does anybody want to gander a guess if the next one will be high or low?
Is max is 1,000?
Yeah, max is 1,000.
Billy says higher.
Higher? Okay. Oh, yeah, we lost. So next one was 125. Yeah, so that's kind of like a bit of our game. If we guess high again, should probably be correct, so it's true. So just like a little game. Last thing I want to do with this is track a score. So right now it's like winning or losing, but just kind of like one-off. So the thing I want to showcase is that you can also keep state within a snap. So what I'm going to do for this next part is just have some helper methods to work with state.
I suspect you're going to go through this, but does it get shipped with its own like state management library or?
Good question. Yeah, so the way that this works is the same way that we had a like snap confirm and kind of all these different ones. There's a snap manage state library which kind of tracks state or which lets you interact with state. So for save state, we're using we're basically using the RPC API that's exposed to the snap, and this time we're using snap manage state. Parameters are just update, and we're basically going to save down whatever state is the new state. I'm going to just type this as wins and losses. So you can basically, like, your state can be as complex as you want or like the structure can be whatever you need. For us, it's just going to be wins and losses. So when you pass an object of this shape into save state, it's going to save it down. So we'll save our wins and losses. And then we just need a function to retrieve the state back out. And this is very similar. We're using the same wallet, I guess RPC API exposed to the snap. We're calling manage state, and this time we're getting it. If it's undefined, we're just going to set a default of 0, otherwise we return it. So those are just some like helper methods. Got get state, save state, and the typing. So now what we want to do is just kind of like incorporate this into our RPC API. So I'm going to fetch it. I'm going to get it at the top of the method. I think just from looking at some examples online, it's kind of best practice. And now whenever somebody wins or loses, we basically want to increment the wins or losses. So we don't want to mutate. So what we're going to do is at the top, just create a new object. So copying the state that already exists. And now if the user is correct, we will increment the wins. Otherwise, we increment the losses. And finally, right now we just kind of made a new JSON object, so nothing will happen. But what we want to do is then save the state down. And I'll also just return it afterwards. And for some reason, this is not letting it. Oh. Okay, so going to reinstall the snap. Actually, we're going to add one more thing. So right now it'll just be console log, but what we want to do is give people access to it. So the last thing we can do is a final method called get scores. And all we're going to do, because we already extracted the state, we can just return the state. So this last method will just actually return what the wins and losses are. Let's see. Nope. Yeah, the text is so big. I feel like it's like hard to tell where I'm pasting stuff in. Cool. Yeah. So we have a final method of get scores. And one more thing to note: we're elevating the permissions of this. Now it's opting to save a state, so we just want to give it permissions in the manifest.json. So that is, we're going to request the user to let us manage the state as well.
Nice. I assume the state is local to the specific implementation or specific instance of the snap.
Yeah. Well, in terms of, so like if me and you download the same snap, like we'll both have a local state that's different.
Yeah, that's what I meant. That makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah. It's basically, it's like you're storing additional data that's stateful inside of your MetaMask extension. And if you were to like remove the snap, then you would basically like wipe out the data unless it has some like an online backup mechanism,
Nice.
which is also interesting to think about. Okay, so we reinstalled it, and now I think, let's refresh the page. So yeah, giving permission to connect to the snap. We have now this additional permission of managing and storing data, so we're going to approve it. So it's cool that they kind of, I think it tries to be very transparent. So now when we, okay, yeah, high or low? Does anybody want to guess?
Lower.
Low? Okay, we won. So now we're tracking some wins and losses. And this is cool because it's like attached to your extension. So if we were to open it up, like the same exact snap is still connected. So like the state is exactly the same. It's kind of just accessing some state in your browser. So we can kind of do the same thing. Maybe guess low for this one. So now we've got 2 wins. So it kind of just like, it won't go away basically until you choose to delete the snap. Or you like wipe it out with some logic you implement. Okay, and the last thing I want to do is just actually fetch this information. So we can just do like a get scores method. And if anybody maybe wants to like, I mean, you kind of, yeah, does anybody maybe want to, I guess, guess how we would, oh, I see some people were in the chat. Does anybody want to guess how we would call this get scores method? Or maybe paste it in the Discord chat or something. I can also just.
It's all on the window Ethereum object again, right? With like requests, and then we're passing in the method, or is it changing now?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, same thing. So we're using the MetaMask API to then access our. So like this part is standard RPC API, invoke Snap. And the params we pass it are then kind of like the Snap relevant arguments. So in this case, it's going to be the same. The ID is the same. Always forget this. ID is the same, and then we're going to tell it. And then this part is actually like the Snap RPC call that gets passed. So it's kind of like a little bit nested. And we're just going to call get scores. And no parameters, because all we're doing is retrieving state. This needs to be async. And I just want to, maybe for user friendliness, just save it in a state variable so it's easy to see. So we'll have scores. I want to get scores anytime we guess. So I think after here, we can just call get scores. And just going to, there's going to be some typing issues with this. And so same exact method, I just pasted in some typing. And we're going to set scores. So just to be able to display it. I wonder why this is, oh, I know why. The linter yells at you when you have something used below or above when you define it. Okay, so last thing I want to do is maybe just like print it out so it's kind of more visible. We can do it here. And just in the interest of time, I'll just stringify it. Cool. Let's refresh this. Oh yeah, it showed up already. So right now it's 0 because we haven't fetched any yet. So maybe you guess higher this one. Sweet, yeah. So this is kind of just printing out the state that exists. Maybe lower. Yeah, so we're like on a roll. We're on a roll right now. Cool. That's pretty much it for building out the snap. I kind of just wanted to showcase like how to use state, how to do fetch calls. I'll stop here for questions. Otherwise, I just have a couple of like closing comments. Yeah. Okay. I'll keep going.
Have you got have you seen like obvious use cases, like as you've been using it, stuff that you can see like where the value is going to be created?
It's a good question. One that I think is kind of interesting is like, what I think is a good use case might be like an address book. I think I saw it maybe as an example, but that could be a good one if you want to like save your friends' addresses. It'd be super helpful to like just have them saved in a snap, or like your friends' ENSs, so it's like easy to send people stuff. Password manager is a good example they have as well. I probably wouldn't use a snap for that, unless the UX was like very good. But I think things where it's helpful to like save data down will be good. Also, one thing is probably going to add a lot of value is like I had mentioned Ceramic before, and they kind of let you have a decentralized identity profile. It would be really cool to like integrate Ceramic in, to like have a snap that uses Ceramic to kind of like serve your decentralized identity. I see that being a really cool use case. But the coolest thing about snaps, in my opinion, is like we don't know. I think the more people that get their hands on it will just like think of interesting and cool stuff, and who knows what people will build with it. And as more support is built out for more snap capabilities, like people will be able to do cool things. I know one of the things they're trying to do is give you visibility into like transactions, so no control, but you might be able to like see the transaction. So like you might be able to kind of track your transactions over time, or something cool could be like a small percent of each transaction you might want to donate to charity or something. So I could see lots of use cases. It's like the world is your oyster. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like a whole new platform. It'd be interesting to
Exactly.
see where people take it.
Yeah, it's very cool. So we'll see what happens with it, especially as it matures. Okay, so the last thing I want to talk about is just some examples. If people want to look at like more robust or just different examples, the really cool one. So like the one we built is super simple. It's like one TypeScript file with a couple of methods, but something where you like integrate with a network is way more involved. So I just wanted to like show you guys a little bit of that. Or I kind of just wanted to highlight this like BIP, or can people see this? Let me make it bigger.
Yeah, you probably want to zoom a little bit, mate.
Is that okay?
Maybe one more.
More? Okay. How about now?
Yeah, you're good.
Okay, so I'm looking at this Filecoin snap that ChainSafe has created. And I'm not going to show the whole snap, or I mean, I can also show you guys the RPC API that they have defined. But what I wanted to highlight here is this BIP44 entropy. So they're kind of using the same thing, wallet request, but now the method they're using on that's exposed to the snap is this BIP44 entropy. And what this does is basically, like your keys are still private, but it'll derive you keys to interact with Filecoin. So it'll give you like a pair of keys for Filecoin. And it's so if anybody's interested in this and like is interested in integrating with another network and is interested in cryptography, I think this is a cool place to take a look. Like based on the network, they can kind of like, based on like this BIP44 protocol, you can kind of use this value to generate keys for other networks. So very interesting.
Nice. So does that give you like sign in with MetaMask without having to actually be on Filecoin's website or something?
Yeah, that's my understanding of it. So you don't have to like use a different wallet. You can basically use MetaMask. The caveat here is like, because this snap is managing your keys, it's like riskier, I think, you know, because you have to like really trust the developer of the snap. So I guess it's good that it's all open source, but yeah, just something to also be conscious of. Cool, yeah, so if you guys want links to those, feel free, but they're all in the MetaMask documentation. And I want to do one last poll, so if anybody still has it open, otherwise, oh yeah, it's a little bit up there. And let me just, the last thing I want to know, one sec. I have to type this out. They only give me 3 free ones, so just give me like a second. Okay, yeah, so the last question I have is just, oh, let me clear this out. I'm just curious, based on, I guess, having learned more about snaps, I'm interested to know whether people are maybe might be more motivated to actually build a snap. So yeah, just out of curiosity, I would also be interested to know if the answer is no and why. And I'll share this link again.
Yeah, I think I'm most interested to like find out like once you start using it, what problems do you imagine that it can solve? Did you have that list of like ideas that, or wish lists that the Snaps team had maybe suggested, or?
For sure, yeah. Let me try and find it. Oh, I had it up already, actually. I think. I just want to pull up the docs. It's kind of hidden in here.
Maybe if anyone's got like something that's been niggling in their brain as well, if they've seen this as how you might use it, could be quite interesting to hear.
Yeah, definitely feel free to shout it out. Oh, so this is also their discussion board. You can kind of ask questions, get a lot of resources, and here's their wish list. So also make this bigger. Yeah, so I mean, some of these are messaging, so that's cool. DAO tooling, I don't know much about, but would love to see, like, people who feel those problems more might want to use something like that. Other network support, yeah, supports for different protocols. Yeah, so I think this list will just be ever growing.
So if someone like was to send a notification, do you get that notification from your like MetaMask extension? So like,
oh, good question. Yeah, so there's actually this like notifications. If you were to be sent a notification, it wouldn't pop up like a push notification. It shows up inside of here. So I was actually
nice.
this. Yeah. So it's kind of like MetaMask notification. So maybe that's how messaging might play out. We'll see.
Yeah. Are we going to end up having? It's going to look like my Discord icon.
Oh, John, you made a point that the multi-sig account would be helpful. Like, how do you see that one playing out?
The whole idea of if you need confirmation from 2 other addresses, say, like maybe how would you get in touch with those people? Let's say that they don't monitor messages related to the multi-sig account. Maybe, I don't know.
Yeah, so you could basically just like send them a notification or something to their address. That'd be very cool. But also like it's like it makes you worried because then you might get spammed. So yeah, I don't know. It's interesting to see how these things might play out.
Wow, yeah, that's a really good point.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. So I feel like it creates like lots of solutions and then probably more things to think about and ways that you would need to protect the user and stuff like that. But lots of cool stuff, like lots of cool potential here.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I think that's it. Yeah, thank you everybody. Let me know if you have any questions. I was like really excited to share this with you because I had a lot of fun learning it. It's kind of like an interesting project, and I'm excited about the potential. And yeah, we have workshops every Wednesday, so check out the next one.
Thanks, Lena. That was really awesome.
Yeah, thanks everybody.
Where can people find you, Lena?
You can find me on Twitter at McLeans. I can throw that in the chat as well. Oops, it just tagged me as Lena. Yeah, you guys can just message me on Twitter. Also, if you have questions about Snaps, that just discussion board I showed you guys is like a great place to ask questions. And the team seems to be like very responsive and helpful. So definitely use their discussion board as a resource.
Right. Have you got like a suggestion of where might be the best place to start for folks learning Snaps?
Good question. They actually they just put up a new website. Let me see if I can remember the link. MetaMask. Probably just try this and see what shows up. It was just sent to me. 1 second, I'll pull it up. Just grabbing the link. Loading. Oh, here, metamask.io/snaps.
Nice.
Okay. Here is, I think they just, I guess, oh, why is this not working? Oh, here it is. Yeah, so I would say this is the best place where they kind of link all the relevant information to the documentation, getting started. Looks like, yeah, I mean, they have pretty good documentation, like pretty much was able to glean everything just from reading the processes. And they also link out some guides, their discussion board. So this would be a good place to start. My recommendation, if you want to just understand how they work, maybe just follow one of the guides and clone everything, and kind of just try to mess around with the snaps and see how it goes. And yeah, go from there.
Awesome, mate. That was great. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you everybody. This was really cool. Yeah, thanks for listening.
Great stuff. Yeah, thanks everyone for coming. We'll get the video up on later on this evening and get a post out. And yeah, feel free to connect with McLean's. She's pumping out loads of awesome content at the moment and helping us get these workshops rolling. So huge kudos to her for that and for this awesome workshop. And we'll see you all next week.
Cool. Yeah, have a good rest of your week, guys.